Good day, everyone. We are Group 6 and we are going to discuss the chapter 12, which is Electronic Commerce System. So, here are the contents of our discussion. So, Internet Commerce. Whenever we heard e-commerce or Internet Commerce, the one thing that comes to our mind mostly is the online shops like uh, Shopee, Lazada, and other online businesses. Uh, it's because at this time it is very rampant nowadays that people are using internet-based businesses or what we so call the e-commerce. So, as an overview, internet commerce has enabled thousands of business and enterprises of all sizes, as well as millions of consumers, to congregate and interact in a worldwide virtual shopping mall. Along with enormous opportunities, however, the electronic marketplace has engendered unique risks. This section of the chapter examines the technologies, benefits, risks, and security issues associated with internet commerce. So now, depending upon the perception of people, there are various connotations about e-commerce. But when we talk about e-commerce here in our discussion, e-commerce is the electronic processing and transmission of business data, which might include first is the electronic buying and selling of goods and services. For example, Lazada and Shopee. Next is the online delivery of digital products. Next is the electronic funds transfer or EFT for those who are having bank accounts. Next is the electronic trading of stocks. Next is the direct consumer marketing. And six is the electronic data interchange or the intercompany exchange of computer processable business information in standard format. So mostly business in e-commerce are already done through electronic data process. So internet technologies. So for the internet technologies, the internet was originally developed for the US military and later became used widely for academic and government research. Over recent years, it has evolved into a worldwide information highway. This growth is attributed to three factors. So the internet became the domain of everyday people with pieces rather than just scientists and computer hackers. So there are internet technologies that are connected with e-commerce and one of this is the packet switching. So packet switching is that the internet employs communication technologies based on packet switching. So in packet switching, messages are divided into small packets, and each packet of the messages takes a different route. So the choice of transmission path is determined in accordance with criteria that achieve optimum utilization of the long distance lines, including the degree of traffic congestions on the line or internet. And it will also take the shortest part on the endpoints. So itong particular packets na to is usually used in a wide area. So, and when we talk about it, hindi natin napapansin, but technically, this is more a transmission communication technology inside our business to business or e-commerce setup. Next is the virtual private networks or the VPN. So it is a private network within a public network. For years, common carriers have built VPNs which are private from the client's perspective, but physically share backbone trunks with other users. So, for example, there is a site that only specific person can access, but they can only access it inside the premises. So, kapag wala sila dun sa premises, for example, in a workplace, in their building. So, hindi nila ma-access yung site na they need or their portal. So, um, the tech will provide the VPN so that they can access the particular site. Next is the extranets. So this is a password controlled network for private users rather than the general public. Extranets are used to provide access between trading partner internal database. So internet sites containing information intended for private consumptions frequently use an extranet configuration. So it is somehow an internet protocol and internet-based system, but it is only intended for private users. Next is the World Wide Web. So it is an internet facility that links user sites locally or and around the world. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee of the European Center for Nuclear Research in Geneva developed the web as a means of sharing nuclear research information over the internet. So dito natin nagagawa yung mga HTML codes, yung mga web publishing activities natin. So there are exam so there are different internet addresses. For first is the um, email address. So email address, we are very familiar with this. Lahat naman tayo may email address. So for example, my email address is habutbod@gmail.com. So it is the format of this is that the username at domain name. Next is the URL address. URL address is the address that define the path to a facility or file on the web. And URLs are typed into the browser to access website, home pages, and individual web pages, and can be embedded in web pages to provide hypertext links to other pages. So we're very familiar with URL addresses. Ito yung ito yung mga it's referring to it's it is uniform resource locator target target site in a web browser. So ito yung mapapansin natin yung URL muna to search sites. Lastly is the IP address. It is referring to a particular domain. So familiar naman tayo sa IP address, like the uniqueness of our addresses. Next is the protocol. So protocols are the rules and standards governing the design of hardware and software that permit users of network which different vendors have manufactured to communicate and share data. Also, the general acceptance of protocols within the network community provides both standards and economic incentives for the manufacturers or hardware and softwares. So yung mga formal rules na to, rules of conduct, it is intended to avoid international problems that could arise through misinterpretation of ambiguous signals passed between diplomatic counterparts. So what functions do protocols perform? Um, it protocols facilitates the physical connection between the network devices. Also, it synchronizes the transfer of data between physical devices. It provides a basis for error checking and measuring network performance, and it promotes compatibility among network devices. And lastly, it promotes network designs that are flexible, expandable, and cost effective. So diplomatic protocols define the rules by which the representatives of nations communicate and collaborate during social and official functions. So here are the various types of protocols used in internet. So first is the transfer control protocol or internet protocol. the TCP or IP. So this is a basic protocol that permits communication between internet sites. So it controls how individual packets of data are formatted. So it transmitted and so it controls how individuals pack, packets of data are formatted, transmitted, and received. And also the TCP portion of the protocol ensures that the total number of the data bytes transmitted was received. Next is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol or the HTTP. It controls the web browser. So typically, it is used before website extensions. Makikita natin ito sa during every time we enter the site. So next is the FTP or the Final Transfer Protocol. So it is used to transfer sites across the internet. Also, so it includes the telnet or it is a terminal emulation protocol used on TCP/IP based networks. So also FTP, it allows users to run programs and renew data from remote or even terminal computer. Next is the Simple Network Mail Protocol or SNMP. It is popular protocol in transmitting email messages. Next is the Secure Sockets Layer and Secure Electronic Transmission or the SET. So both of these are encryption schemes, um, low-level encryption schemes. So it is used to secure transmission in higher level HTTP format. So it is typically used for technology, for example, banks like that because of the uses of credit cards, something like that. So mostly kasi ang encryption key are passwords. Next is PCT or Private Communication Technology. PCT, it is like the SSL and SET, so they are the same except that the PCT is a high level other than the SSL and SET. So it supports authentication and encryption to secure privacy in internet transactions. So Open System Interface or OSI, it is the International Standards Organization, developed a layered set of protocols called OSI. So the purpose of OSI is to provide standards by which the products or different manufacturers can interface with one another in seamless interconnection at the user level. Next is the benefits from internet commerce. So first is the access to a worldwide customer or supplier base. So it is like, syempre, halimbawa tayo, we have access like we are ordering products from China going to Manila. So we could buy since it's a worldwide consumer and supplier base. Next is reductions in inventory investments and carrying costs. Next is the rapid creation of business partnership to fill market niches as they emerge. For example, ito is, for example, Shopee and the JNT, they are partners. Kasi yung minsan, di ba, nagpapadeliver tayo using JNT. Also like the Lazada, they have different partnership with every brand. So hindi naman kasi lahat yun pag may-ari ng Lazada. Next is reductions in retail prices through lower marketing costs. So, isahan na lang din kasi isahan na lang din kasi yung platform niya. So, 5 is reductions in procurement costs. Next is better customer service. So, next is the internet business model. So, the first is the information level. It uses the internet to display information about the company, its products, services, and business policies. This level involves little more than creating a website, and it is the first step taken by most firms entering the internet marketplace. So the In information level, the organization must ensure you information displayed on the website is current and complete and also accurate. And next is the customers can find the site and successfully navigate through it. Next is an adequate hardware and software infrastructure exists to facilitate quick access during high usage periods. Lastly is only authorized users can access info on the site. Next is transaction level, or it uses the internet to accept orders from customers and or to place them with their business supplier. So it also involves into engaging in business activities with total strangers from remote parts of the world. Next is the distribution level. So it uses the internet to sell and deliver digital products to customers. So this includes subscriptions to online news services, software products, and upgrades music and video products. So lastly is the dynamic virtual organization. So it's perhaps the greatest potential benefit to be derived from commerce is the firm's ability to forge dynamic business alliances with other organizations to fill unique market niches as opportunities arise. These may be long-lasting partnership or one-time ventures. So this is an example. So for example, here in a marketing organization, it is where we advertise the product. Dito tayo nag-advertise. So, syempre, while we advertise, it is tied up to the consumers or the customers. Also, syempre, hindi lang naman siya dun nagsistay also into the manufacturer and the distributor. And eventually, it creates benefits to businesses since they are partners, so they have the partnership. So that would be all to my report. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Nulido Ayurjena to continue our report. Let me ask you, are there risks associated with the use of e-commerce? The answer is definitely yes. Reliance on electronic commerce poses concern about unauthorized access to confidential information, as local area networks become the platform for mission-critical applications and data. Proprietary information, customer data, and financial records are at risk. Organizations connected to their customers and business partners via the internet are particularly exposed. Without the adequate protection, firms open their doors to computer hackers, vandals, thieves, and industrial spies, both internally and from around the world. In terms of electronic commerce, risk relates to the loss, the theft, or destruction of data, as well as the use of computer programs that financially or physically harm an organization. This includes intranet risk posed by dishonest and employees who have the technical knowledge and position to perpetrate frauds, and then the internet risk that threaten both consumers and business entities. And intranet is a private network, kumbaga internal network in comparison sa internet na pang worldwide siya. And so we will learn more sa mga sa following slides. The first intranet risk is the interception of network messages. Here, the individual nodes on most intranets are connected to shared channel across which travel user IDs, passwords, confidential emails, and financial data files. The unauthorized interception of this information by a node on the network is called sniffing. So sniffing means there is an interception of, for example, sa mga nabanggit ko kanina, for example, interception of user IDs, password, confidential emails, and financial data files. So another risk naman is the accessing accessing corporate database. So the connections to central database increase the risk that data will be accessible by employees. For example, and outsiders have bribed employees who have access privileges to financial accounts to electronically write off an account receivable or erase an outstanding tax bill. Next risk will be for the privileged employees. Sometimes, employees override their control for an unauthorized access to mission-critical data. To have a clear understanding in the typical organization, impeded access mission-critical data could result in number one, the lost sales in our customers, financial or regulatory penalties, and or damage to reputation. Lastly, sometimes we are reluctant in terms of prosecution. um, we have the fear of negative publicity leading to such reluctance but encourages criminal behavior. So those are some of the intranet risks that we might encounter in terms of our e-commerce. Ngayon naman ay sa internet risk, and we have risk to consumers. As more and more people connect to the web, internet fraud increases. Because of this, many consumers view the internet as an unsafe place to do business. And we have here the major concerns such as the theft of credit card numbers. So the perception that the internet is not secure for credit card purchase is considered to be the biggest barrier to electronic commerce. Some internet companies are negligent or even fraudulent in the way they collect, use, and store credit card information. The next will be the theft of passwords. And we are aware na maraming nanghahack ng password. So one form of internet fraud involves establishing a website to steal a visitor's password. To access the web page, the visitor is asked to register and provide an email address and password. The next will be consumer privacy, and is the concerns about the lack of privacy discourage the consumers from engaging in internet commerce. The last will be the cookies and consumer security. Another concern over the use of cookies relates to security. Cookies are text files that can be read with any text editor. Some websites may store user passwords in cookies. If the passwords are not encrypted before being stored, anyone with access to the computer can retrieve the cookies and the password. Thus, when the multiple employees share a computer in the workplace, all users of the computer may review the cookies file which is stored in a company directory. The business entities are also at risk for internet commerce. And kanina is the risk to consumer. Now is the risk to business naman, and such as IP spoofing, denial of service attacks, and malicious programs. So ano nga ulit yung mga risk to business? Ang una is the IP spoofing. It is a form of masquerading to gain unauthorized access to a web server and or to perpetrate an unlawful act without revealing one's identity. Para ma-accomplish ito is the perpetrator modifies the IP address of the originating computer to disguise his or her identity. For example, a hacker may spoof a manufacturing firm with a false sales order that appears to come from a legitimate customer. If the spoof goes undetected, the manufacturer will incur the cost of producing and delivering a product that was never ordered. Next is the denial of service attack, or the DOS. It is an assault on a web server to prevent it from servicing its legitimate users. Dito is nangyayari yung pagbablock, for example, sa isang website kaya hindi maka-access or hindi maka-process ng business transaction from a customer. Merong common types nitong denial of service attack. The first type is the SYN flood. It is when the three-way handshakes needed to establish an internet connection occurs. The final acknowledgement is not sent by the DOS attacker, thereby tying up the receiving server while it waits. Here is the illustration para magets natin yung SYN flood. So meron nga tinatawag na three-way handshakes. And these are what the client needs to initiate the conversation by requesting a communication session with server. So, three-way handshake. So, kailangan complete yung tatlong steps na nandito. In the first step, the client establishes a connection with the server. So, tinatawag na SYN message SYN, or short for synchronization message. So in the second step, the server responds to the client request with the SYN or ACK, short for acknowledged signal set. Ibig sabihin, the receiver sends back to the other side that it has received the SYN, or it acknowledged the synchronized message. And in the final step, the client acknowledged the response of the server or non-receiver. So what happens sa SYN flood sudden as the one common type of DOS attack is when the sender sends hundreds of messages, then receive the SYN ACK but does not respond back with an ACK packet. So, di nangyari yung pinaka-final na step. So then, this leaves the receiver clogged transmission ports and legitimate messages cannot be received. Then, tapos na tayo sa SYN flood, the next denial of service is called Smurf. So, na-accomplish itong attack na ito by the exploiting an internet maintenance tool called a ping, which is used to test the state of network congestions and determine whether a particular host computer is connected and available on the network. Ang ginagawa ng perpetrator, it uses a program that creates a ping message packet that contains the forged IP address of the victim's computer. It's also called IP spoofing, and rather than that of the actual source computer. So the intermediary or the unwitting and unaware party, what happens is it floods the target computer that can overwhelm the victim's computer and cause network congestions that makes it unusable for legitimate traffic. So again, when Smurf happened, the DOS attacker uses numerous intermediary computer to flood the target computer with text messages, or what we call pings. Then we have the last one, which is distributed denial of service attack. So this can take the form of Smurf or SYN attacks, but distinguished by the vast number of zombie computers hijacked to launch the attacks. So ano pa ba yung other malicious programs that create risk sa e-commerce? Malicious, tinatawag malicious because they intended to do harm. So virus and other forms of malicious programs such as worms, logic bombs, and Trojan horses pose a threat to both internet and intranet users. This may be used to bring down a computer network by corrupting its operating systems, destroying or corrupting corporate databases, or capturing passwords that enable hackers to break into the system. Malicious programs, however, are not exclusively an electronic commerce issue. Database management, operating system security, and application integrity are also threatened. Because of the broad-based implication, this class of risk is examined at length in Chapter 16. Then let's now talk about some securities. Kanina, we talked about the problem about intranet and internet. How about the remedies or the ways para magkaroon ng security, trust, and assurance yung mga tayong users or the company and the customers na maiwasan yung mga unwanted attacks? So when we talk about encryption, it is a conversion of data into a secret code for storage in database and the transmission over networks. The sender uses an encryption algorithm to convert the original message code clear text into a coded equivalent called ciphertext. At the receiving end, the ciphertext is decoded or decrypted back into clear text. Then, we encounter ito sa mga email kapag may mahalagang information or files tayong sinend to avoid na manakaw yung mga yon or ma-open ng sinuman na hindi natin ino-authorize, make sure na natin na encrypted, nasa may encryption yung communication natin, and it is first necessary to establish a secure connection between the client and the server. So pinapakita dito yung public key encryption process. So nabanggit ko din kanina yung about sa encryption process. So because the same key is used for coding and decoding, control over the key becomes an important security issue. The more individuals that need to exchange encrypted data, the greater the chance that the key will become known to an intruder who could intercept a message and read it, change it, delay it, or destroy it. To overcome this problem, public key corporation was devised. This approach uses two different keys, one for encoding messages and the other for decoding them. The recipient has a private key used for decoding that is kept secret. The encoding key is public and published for everyone to use, and then receivers never need to share private keys with senders, which reduces the likelihood that they fall into the hands of an intruder. Another security employed in the e-commerce is tinatawag na digital authentication. It's all about digital signature and certificate because encryption alone cannot resolve all security concerns. Kasi pwede pa din magkaroon ng mga hackers that could really get encrypted codes para ma-decrypt yung encrypted data. A digital signature is an electronic authentication technique that ensures the transmitted message originated with the authorized sender and that it was not tampered with after the signature was applied. The digital signature is derived from mathematically computed digest of the document that has been encrypted with the sender's private key. So, on the other hand, digital certificate naman is just like an electronic identification card that is used in conjunction with the public key encryption system to verify the authenticity of the message sender. So, trusted third parties known as certification authorities, for example, VeriSign, issue digital certificates, also called digital IDs. So, our next reporter we're gonna discuss the other e-commerce securities. So that's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jimpolo Mendoza. I'm here to continue the discussion about security, assurance, and trust. So let's start with firewalls. A firewall is a system used to insulate an organization's intranet from the internet. It can be used to authenticate an outside user of the network, verify his or her level of access authority, and then direct the users to the program data or service requested. In addition to insulating the organization's network from external networks, firewalls can also be used to protect local area networks from unauthorized internal access. The common configurations employ two firewalls, a network level firewall and an application level firewall. So network level firewall provides basic screening of low security messages, for example, email, and routes them to their destinations based on the source and destination addresses attached. While the application level firewalls provides high level network security, these firewalls are configured to run security applications called proxies that perform sophisticated functions such as verifying users' authentication. So next is sales of assurance. In response to consumer demand for evidence that web-based business is trustworthy, a number of trusted third-party organizations are offering sales of assurance that businesses can display on their websites and homepages. To legitimately bear the seal, the companies must show that it complies with certain business practices, capabilities, and controls. This section reviews 6 sales granting organizations: the Better Business Bureau, Trustee, VeriSign, International Computer Security Association, AICPA or SICA Web Trust, and AICPA or SICA Sys Trust. So ano-ano tong mga to, isa-isahin natin. First is the Better Business Bureau or the BBB. It is a nonprofit organization that has been promoting ethical business practices through self-regulation since 1912. The BBB has extended its mission to the internet through a wholly owned subsidiary called BBB Online Incorporated. The assurance BBB Online provides relates primarily to concern about business policies, ethical advertising, and consumer privacy. Next is the Trustee. It was founded in 1996. It is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving consumer privacy practices among internet businesses and websites. Trustee addresses consumer privacy concerns exclusively and provides a mechanism for posting consumer complaints against its members. If a member organization is found to be out of compliance with Trustee standards, it is right to display the trust seal may be revoked. The next is the VeriSign. It was established as for-profit organization in 1995. It provides assurance regarding the security of transmitted data. Its mission is to provide digital certificate solutions that enable trusted commerce and communications. So next is the International Computer Security Association. The ICSA established its web certification program in 1996. This certification addresses data security and privacy concerns. Organizations that qualify to display the ICSA seal have undergone an extensive review of firewall security from outside hackers. So next is the AICPA or SICA Web Trust. The AICPA and SICA established the Web Trust Program in 1997 to display the AICPA or SICA Web Trust seal. The organization undergoes an examination according to AICPA standard for attestation engagements number 1 by specially certified CPA or CA. And last is the AICPA or SICA SIS Trust. In 1999, the AICPA-RC introduced exposure drafts describing a new assurance service called Trust. It is designed to increase management, customers, and trading partners' confidence in systems that support entire businesses or specific processes. The assurance service involves the public accountant evaluating the system's reliability against four essential criteria, which is availability, security, integrity, and maintainability. So this is the last topic for this chapter, implications for the accounting profession. So these are the following implications for the accounting profession: privacy violation, continuous auditing, electronic audit trails, confidentiality of data, authentication and repudiation, data integrity, access controls, and a changing legal environment. So let's start with privacy violations. Privacy pertains to the level of confidentiality that an organization employs in managing customers and trading partners' data. Privacy applies also to data that websites collect from visitors who are not customers. Specific concerns include: does the organization have a stated privacy policy? What mechanisms are in place to ensure the consistent application of stated privacy policies? What information on customers, trading partners, and visitors does the company capture? Does the organization share or sell its customers, trading partners, or visitor information? Can individuals and business entities verify and update the information captured about them? So, Safe Harbor Agreement. The Safe Harbor Agreement implemented in 1995 reasserts the importance of privacy. The two-way agreement between the United States and European Union to establish standards for information transmittal, approved by European Commission in July 2000. Um, the Safe Harbor principles essentially enable U.S. companies to do business in European unions by establishing what is deemed to be adequate level of privacy protection. Although the document is still evolving, it established uh, that companies need to enter safe harbor agreement or provide evidence that they are abiding by the privacy regulations set forth on it. So compliance with safe harbor agreement requires 6 conditions. First is notice. Organization must provide individuals with clear notice of the purposes for which it collects and uses information about them, the type of third parties to which it discloses the information, and how to contact companies with inquiries and complaints. Second is choice. Before any data are collected, any organization must give its customers opportunity to choose whether to share their sensitive information like data-related factors such as health, race, and religion. Third is onward transfer. Unless they have individuals' permission to do otherwise, organizations may share information only with those third parties that belong to Safe Harbor Agreement or follow its principles. Fourth is security and data integrity. Organization needs to ensure that the data they maintain are accurate, complete, and current, and thus reliable for use. They must also ensure the security of the information by protecting it against loss, misuse, unauthorized access, disclosure, alteration, and destruction. Fifth is access. Unless they would be unduly burdened or violate the rights of others, organizations must give individuals access to personal data about themselves and provide an opportunity to correct, amend, or delete such data. And last is enforcement. Organizations must enforce compliance, provide recourse for individuals who believe their privacy rights have been violated, and impose sanctions on their employees and agents for non-compliance. So next is continuous auditing. Continuous auditing techniques needs to be developed that will enable the auditor to review transactions at frequent intervals or as they occur. To be effective, such an approach will need to employ intelligent control agents or computer programs that embody auditor-defined heuristics that search electronic transactions for anomalies. So if we cannot do a particular manual auditing in electronic business, we must have an in-place computerized auditing techniques. So next is electronic audit trails. In an EDI environment, a client's trading partner's computer automatically generates electronic transactions which are relayed across a value-added network, and the client's computer processes the transactions without human intervention. In such a setting, audits may need to be extended to critical system of all parties involved in the transactions. Validating EDI transactions may involve the client, its trading partners, and the value-added networks that connects them. This could take the form of direct review of the systems or collaborations between the auditors of the trading partners and the value-added networks. So next is confidentiality of data. As system designs become increasingly open to accommodate trading partner transactions, mission-critical information is at risk of being exposed to intruders both from inside and outside the organization. Accountants need to understand the cryptographic techniques used to protect the confidentiality of stored and transmitted data. They need to assess the quality of encryption tools used and the effectiveness of key management procedures that CAs use. So furthermore, the term mission critical defines a set of information that extends beyond the traditional financial concerns of accountants. This broader set demands a more holistic approach to assessing internal controls that ensure the confidentiality of data. So next is authentication. In traditional systems, the business paper on which it was written determines authenticity of sales order from trading partners or customer. In electronic business commerce system, determining the identity of the customer is not a simple task. With no physical forms to review and approve, authentication is accomplished through digital signatures and digital certificates. To perform their assurance function, accountants must develop the skill set needed to understand these technologies and these applications. So next is non-repudiation. Accountants are responsible for assessing the accuracy, completeness, and validity of transactions that constitutes client sales, accounts receivable, purchases, and liabilities. Transactions that a trading partner can unilaterally repudiate can lead to uncollected revenues or legal actions. In traditional systems, signed invoices, sales agreements, and other physical documents provide proof that a transaction occurred. As with the problem of authentication, electronic commerce system can also use digital signatures and digital certificates to promote non-repudiation. So next is data integrity. And non-repudiated transactions from a authentic trading partner may still be intercepted and rendered inaccurate in a material way. In a paper-based environment, such alterations are easy to detect. Digital transmissions, however, pose much more of a problem. To assess data integrity, accountants must become familiar with the concept of computing a digest of a document and the role of digital signatures in data transmission. Since online nga to, data could be intercepted by some attackers or intruders. So eventually, mapapatanong tayo, what more na na-attack yung website mo, paano pa kaya yung financial data nyo? There should be an enough basis, enough checking to check whether your data has its integrity to be used in financial reporting. So next is access controls. Controls need to be in place that prevents or detect unauthorized access to an organization's information system. Organizations whose systems are connected to the internet are at greatest risk from outside intruders. Accounting firms need to be expert in assessing their clients' access controls. Many firms are now performing penetration tests designed to assess the adequacy of their clients' access controls by imitating known techniques that hackers and crackers use. Again, we need to avoid some unauthorized access. So kanina nabanggit na sila digital signatures, digital certificates, also some passwords so that intruders will not be able to have an unauthorized access to the system. So last is changing legal environment. Accountants have traditionally served their clients by assessing risk and devising techniques to mitigate and control risk. This risk assessment role is greatly expanded by internet commerce, whose legal framework is still evolving in a business environment fraught with new and enforcing risks. To estimate a client's exposure to legal liability in this setting, the public accountant must understand the potential legal implications of transactions that the client electronic commerce system processes. For example, a web page from which customers order goods opens the organization to national and international business communities and exposes it to multiple possible conflicting legal statutes, legal issues relating to taxes, privacy, security, intellectual property rights, and libel create new challenges for the accounting profession, which must provide their clients with rapid and accurate advice on a wide range of legal questions. So that's the end of our report. I hope you learned something. Thank you for listening.